plate.
Come after me! I'm a man! I'm 40! Can't wait! Let's go!
Good morning and welcome. It is Coffee and Sports. It is the morning show powered by Sports Empire Network. Thank you for making us part of whatever your morning routine is, whether you're watching us live on Facebook or YouTube, or maybe you're watching us over on Roku TV this morning. We appreciate you being here. I am Chris, and of course, that is Mo. Mo, how are you this morning, sir?
Doing great. Just ready to get into the show. We're getting that much closer to Christmas, everybody.
It's coming, Mo. It is coming. And something I wanted to talk about that we didn't get to yesterday that I felt deserved our attention, Mo. We touched on Golden State and we touched on them beating the Boston Celtics. But what we didn't touch on was a moment. It was just a moment during that game, but it was one that I thought was worth our commenting on. There was a moment in that game where Steph was being covered by Jaylen, or Steph was covering Jaylen Brown, and Jaylen Brown backs him down. Clearly, there is a size differential between the two of them. So Brown backs him down, puts a move on him, gets a bucket. And as Brown's going up the court, and I don't know why this is becoming a thing in the NBA, Mo. I don't know why it's like a trending taunt in the NBA. We know where it started, but why it's kind of moving on to other guys, I don't really understand it. But Brown gets the bucket on Steph, and he hits him with the "you're too small" taunt, right? And as I was watching the game, I was thinking to myself, there's no way you just did that to Steph Curry. Like, do you know who Steph Curry is? Do you know what Steph Curry has accomplished in this? Like, there's certain people, Mo, I feel you don't hit that on. And I feel like Steph Curry is one of those people, because Jaylen, let's not forget, you may be taller than Steph Curry, but when it comes to coming up small, Jaylen, you've done that several times in your short career, in big spots in games, in big spots in playoff series, in big spots in finals series, where Steph averages, I believe, 10 and 11 more points than you, respectively, overall in those moments. That's where you, sir, come up small. So I don't understand why you feel it's okay after you didn't win the game on Steph Curry. You didn't dominate Steph Curry. You scored a bucket on Steph Curry. Oh, by the way, Mo, in a game where, fast forward to the fourth quarter and overtime, Jaylen Brown and Tatum, who are supposed to be one of the best duos in the National Basketball Association, they combined for 7 points over that span, while Steph Curry put up 20 during that time and lifted his team, the one-man operation that is the Golden State Warriors, to a victory. But my bad, Steph was the small one that night. I don't get it, Mo. I don't feel like if that's a LeBron or a Giannis or a KD, I don't think you're doing that to them. It struck me during the game, because I was like, really? You're gonna do that to Steph? Come on now.
I think I'm bothered by that taunt because a lot of players also do it early in the game. And
right.
What happens if you end up losing the game? Do you know what I mean? Like, what happens then? And really, like you said, a guy like Steph, I know John Morant was running off the court the other night when he won. He said he's keeping receipts. He's got all the receipts. Steph Curry doesn't say it, but believe me, he remembers when you did that, when he felt slighted, and he keeps receipts and he will respond. And I watched that game, and the Celtics fell apart in part because Steph Curry dominated them in the fourth quarter, a lot like he did when he played them in the finals a couple of years ago. He dominated the fourth quarters, and they couldn't respond. And like you said, I like Jaylen Brown. I think he's a good basketball player. The taunting, that whole thing with the "you're too small" thing, it's one of those taunts. Like I said, I don't like it because it's done early, and 9 times out of 10 they come back to bite you after you've done it. But especially against a guy like Steph Curry, right? He can embarrass you and make you look bad. If you watch that game, that fourth quarter, it was all Steph Curry. That overtime, it was Steph Curry. And Tatum and Brown, like you said, and they are one of the better duos, but it was both of them on the floor. Steph Curry was basically by himself. Klay wasn't having a great game. You know the struggles of Wiggins and others, and Steph Curry outdueled the duo. So I would say if I'm Jaylen Brown, I need to focus on getting back to the finals and coming up big in big situations instead of trying to slight all-time great players.
And that pick and choose your spots, right, Mo? hit it on the bench guy. Hit the bench guy with "you're too small." Don't be
like
hitting one of the best players in the game with "you're too small," especially there was no beef between them. It's not like they had a thing going back and forth and this is just a product of that thing. This was literally just supposed to be like normal back and forth on the court. And a quarter and a half later, Jaylen Brown's proven to be the one who's too small. We didn't even have to
Jaylen
wait.
Brown thinks they have a beef. Instead, you know what I mean? Because Steph didn't know about it.
Correct. This might be like Austin Reeves and is it Pat Bev? Is that who he is?
It's Pat Bev, yeah. Right.
Pat Bev knows there's a beef. Austin Reeves isn't
time.
quite sure what's going on with that situation.
Right. Pat Bev's got a beef with everybody.
He keeps a running tally of receipts, and sometimes they only make sense to him.
Facts.
Other guys are like, wait, do I have a beef with Pat Bev? Can someone check on that for me? check the tape. Mo, I don't even know where to go with this because I honestly thought we talked about this during one of our segments yesterday with Gene. And by the way, if you didn't see Wire to Wire last night and you missed their show, please go back and watch that on YouTube. It was a tremendous show. Really entertaining stuff they did last night. But we had Gene on the show yesterday, and Mo, we briefly talked about Aaron Rodgers. And we talked about Aaron Rodgers appearing on the Pat McAfee show the day prior. We talked about him really kind of backtracking on all the talk, right? All the talk of him playing, all the talk of him, being physically well enough to play. And this literally came after, 2.5 weeks ago, the 21-day window opened. And then he was practicing. And then he was medically cleared. And then there was talk of, was it going to be the Dolphin game or the game after the Dolphin game? Or would he play a little bit even if the Jets were eliminated from the playoffs? Like all these things kind of came to a head on the Pat McAfee show. And Aaron really kind of made it seem like none of those things were ever going to happen. He was like, guys, come on now, 14 weeks. No one plays 14 weeks after, ripping their Achilles. Like it just isn't a thing. Like he really shot down the entire notion, which by the way, he was part of building up the last several months. So it's not like, he isn't Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins tore his Achilles. We haven't heard from Kirk Cousins. I have no idea what's happening with Kirk Cousins. I don't know how he's feeling. I don't know what he's thinking. I don't know what he's thinking about for next season. We literally haven't seen the guy or heard from him since his Achilles torn. Like maybe he's been on the sideline of Viking games. I don't know. I don't think he's spoken since it's happened. But with Aaron, it's literally been every week we're getting updates or information or tidbits or he's doing this or that.
He's throwing a football, throwing a football.
Correct.
Right.
But then the next week, he's not throwing a football because he didn't feel like it that week, and all these things. And we look at the other day and we think it's over, Mo. We think, all right, he said he's not coming back. He said that he's focusing on next season. And they're going to do great things then, and it's going to be a tough offseason. We think it's over. But then yesterday, the New York Jets activate him.
I saw that.
For what, Mo? Why are we activating a guy who isn't going to play this season? Why does he have an active roster spot? And Robert Saleh was asked about this, and I don't know if he thought he wasn't going to be asked this question, because it seemed like he pulled this one out of thin air, and it might be one of the most ridiculous answers I've heard from a head coach this season. His response was, well, we really like having Aaron around the team. I'm sorry. I'm pretty sure he's been practicing for the past 3 weeks. I'm pretty sure he's at practice basically every day when he's not doing his rehab. I'm pretty sure he's at the games, on the sidelines, on the headset. What more around the team can he be, Mo?
Right.
Why are we activating this man?
And why does he have to take up a roster spot?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like he's trolling the sidelines at every game, and he's walking around and he's talking, and he's got a headset on. Like, what else can he do unless you're letting him actually call plays? Like, what is he doing? I don't understand that. I thought Robert Saleh's answer was it was just funny because he was like, we just like having him around. I'm like, he's already around.
Already around.
Unless you promoted him to like offensive coordinator or something, he's already around. You didn't actually have to make it official and actually give up a roster spot. You all are not going to the playoffs, and he's not going to play. And I know when you look at your roster and your QB room, it's not impressive, but still, he's taking up an active roster spot. That's crazy.
And what, by the way, and again, we like having him around. Has that really helped? Like, what is having him around really done for you to the point where you now want him taking up an active roster spot on your team with 3 weeks to go? Like, hasn't helped Zach Wilson any. Hasn't helped Trevor Siemian any. It's made for good TV because when he's on the sidelines, they cut to him, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12 times a game, and he's making facial expressions, and he's looking really solemn over there, or he's having like a little side conversation with a quarterback. What more has he done for you? Because I don't know if having him around has helped all that much, aside from fuel the speculation, which, by the way, now, Mo, I'm not convinced. Are we going to see him dress? I feel like that's the next thing we're going to see.
We're going to see him out and lead them out of the tunnel
for a game or something. Because why else? Why would you activate him? There is no reason to activate him if he's not going to play. It makes no logical sense. You're basically telling the 54th guy on your roster, we would rather have Aaron active, even though he's not going to play, than let you dress for a game.
Right.
How else would you look at that?
In a weird way, is he not also? I don't want to make. Is he not also like taking money from another guy? You know what I mean?
Essentially,
like, you are taking money from a guy who absolutely needs it much more than you do. The opportunity, because it could further his career, but you are literally putting some guy on the unemployment line. Look, I know that is attention. What I don't understand is this, or what I do believe is this. I believe that Robert Saleh knows that Aaron Rodgers has more power than he does. And I think that Robert Saleh is trying to cozy up to Aaron Rodgers. And I really believe that's the case here. I think Robert Saleh's like, Aaron's my guy. I'm with Aaron. It's all thing Aaron. And Aaron's probably sitting there smugly like, that's right. That's right. I think that's exactly what's going on.
You better be with me.
Right. Because if you're not with me, you're not part of this organization. Exactly.
But again, and to your point, Mo, I mean, obviously we're being a little hyperbolic over here, but if you think about it logically, if Aaron's taking up an active roster spot, that's one less roster spot for somebody who could potentially play, which means that's one less roster spot for somebody on their practice squad, and that's one less game check. So, and it could be 3 less game checks if it was the same guy over the course of the last 3 weeks. We don't know what that looks like. Or it could be 3 guys losing the game check. It breaks down in different ways. But you can't sit here this morning and tell me as a Jet fan there is a logical reason why Aaron Rodgers has a roster spot on your team this morning if he's not going to play. Now, if he comes out suited up this weekend, then we all know why he has a roster spot on the team. But aside from that, Mo, it makes zero sense to me.
He's going to lead him out the tunnel. He's going to be geared up, looking like he's getting ready to play. He's not going to play, but I think it would not surprise me to see him completely ready to go, dressed and ready to go like he's going to play.
As the Miami Dolphins prepare to play the Dallas Cowboys, interesting game for both teams. So both teams are 10-4, and both teams are looking to correct the current narrative that is working against them. So the Dallas Cowboy narrative is they can't really play clean games away from home. They are a completely different team when they play in Dallas. They are the only team that is undefeated at home. They average, I believe it's like almost 2 more touchdowns. It might even be a little more than that when they play at home. They average a ton more yards at home. Dak looks better at home. The offense plays better at home. So you saw them get destroyed. Well, I think that's a fair word. Destroyed by Buffalo.
Yeah, definitely.
That's fair, right? So that's what Dallas has going against them. They're going to Miami. They're playing a good team on the road. They struggle on the road. That's the Cowboy narrative. The Dolphins are playing against the narrative as well. The Dolphin narrative is they can't beat teams with a winning record at the time they play them. They've lost 3 of their 4 losses this season have been to teams with a winning record, and those are the only teams they've played with a winning record at the time they played the game. They lost to the Chiefs, they lost to the Eagles, and they lost to the Bills. So the narrative for Miami is they struggle to beat good teams, and obviously Dallas is a good team. Well, Mo, one of these trends has to go by the wayside unless we end in a tie on Christmas Eve. So someone's going to win this game and someone's going to buck their trend. But what's interesting is as the Dolphins are preparing to play the Cowboys, they're asked these questions, right? And then also in the back of all this is the other narrative in Miami, and that's one that's been happening for 2 seasons now, and that involves Tua. And that is whether or not Tua is a good quarterback, whether or not Tua is a product of his system, whether or not Tua is a product of Tyreek and Jalen Waddle. And this week, Miami clapped back against both. So we'll start with Tua. Tua spoke to reporters yesterday, and he basically said, I don't care what you say about me as long as my team wins. I don't care if you say I am who I am because of Tyreek. I don't care if you say I am who I am because of Jalen Waddle. I don't care if you say I'm only going to go as far as my running back Raheem Mostert is going to take me. At the end of the day, if my team is winning football games, you can say whatever you want to say about me. I don't care. That's big, Mo. And that's big because look at Micah Parsons, bona fide superstar in this league. And week in and week out, what does he complain about on his podcast? What the media says about the Cowboys. Stop treating us differently. Right. Stop jumping on us when we lose games, but you don't do the same thing to the Eagles or the 49ers. It's not fair the way you treat us. 2 superstars in this league. Tua leads the league in Pro Bowl votes right now. He is a superstar in this league. He literally told the media yesterday, write whatever the hell you want to write. I literally don't care. I just want to win football games. Micah tells the media every week, be nicer to us. Treat us treat us fairly. Stop being mean to us, but not being mean to them. Is it just a mindset, Mo? Is it more than that? Is it not really a big deal at all? Because literally 2 superstars, different sides of the ball. One is, I'm not going to say he's crying to the media, but essentially he is. And the other is basically telling the media to F off. Write what you want to write. I don't care.
I think it's a personality difference. It's also a maturity difference. I think Tua is comfortable in his own skin. And he's a very mature, easygoing, calm young man. He doesn't mind the fact that he plays with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. I'm sure he'd rather have Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle and people going like, you're a product of having 2 great, speedy receivers versus being in Patrick Mahomes' situation and having a receiving core that Patrick Mahomes has. What I would say about people that don't think Tua is one of the better quarterbacks in football is this. no quarterback right now in the NFL attacks and is more successful against man-to-man coverage than Tua. And I don't know if a lot of people know that, but I know that. That's how good he is. He's great against man-to-man coverage. He will attack it. He will carve it up. That's what he does. He throws darts. Yes, he has some gifted receivers, but he's not throwing moon balls up. They're not going up and getting 50-50 balls. When I watch Miami plays, these guys are getting hit in stride. That's your quarterback throwing you open or throwing to the spot you're going to be. So I would say that Tua is underrated and underappreciated. My only concern about him coming out, and I don't think I was the only one that thought this, was can he hold up physically? Can he avoid injury? Because I thought he might be one of those guys who's always injured. And look, knock on wood, he's done well, and he's found a different way to play. I see him throwing the ball away more times. I see him going to the ground versus trying to take off and run. So he's protecting himself as well. The difference really is real simple. Like I said, it's maturity. Micah Parsons, as gifted and as talented as he is, there's an immaturity there because he feels the pressure, right? Your Dallas Cowboys. We can admit it. The most talked about franchise in the NFL. When you win, everybody loves you. But when you lose, there's a whole level of heat that comes with that as well. And I think that pressure is bearing down on him. There are games where you don't even remember that Micah Parsons is on the field. There are. The last game they lost, Buffalo, they schemed him perfectly. They ran at him and ran over him, and he was a non-factor. So I think there's a frustration level there. I love that Tua said, as long as we win, I'm good. I think Brock Purdy feels the same way. There's the Brock, you got Kittles and you got Debo and you got correct. And he's got Christian McCaffrey, who arguably could be an MVP candidate in his own right. And I think Brock is content in that as long as we win. So I love that Tua has that approach. And I am interested and excited for the matchup because the Dallas Cowboys play more man-to-man than any team in the NFL. So I guess you could call that strength on strength.
And it's not just Tua. His head coach, Coach McDaniels, took it a step further. He spoke to the media yesterday, and he was asked a generic question about the narrative about not being able to beat teams with a winning record. And he respectfully stopped the reporter, and he said, listen, I told every guy on the team this week, if you ask them any question that is not related to the Dallas Cowboys and what is going to happen specifically with the Dallas Cowboys about the game, not about narratives, not about the past, not about the future. If you don't ask them a question that is specifically about the Dallas Cowboys, they are going to tell you to F off. And I have given them permission to do that, and I have instructed them to do that because that's all we care about as a team right now is the Dallas Cowboys. We don't care about what we did last week. We don't care about what we're going to do next week. We don't care about what you write about us. We care about winning football games, and the next team on our schedule are the Dallas Cowboys. He goes, so respectfully, if any of my players tell you to F off this week, understand, one, they were told to do that, and two, I support them for doing that because you asked a question that you probably shouldn't be asking. Mo, I love that. I love that because, one, it isn't just him, right? It's not him just going out there as a head coach and making it look like he doesn't want to answer those questions. It's him going out there as a leader of the team and saying, listen, you're not going to, if I don't answer it, you're not going to go ask one of my players the question, right? You're not going to keep asking until you find someone to give you a soundbite. Let me tell you how it's going to go. This is where our focus is. You can ask us anything you want within this focus, but be aware of what's going to happen if you try to pull a soundbite or you try to back someone into a corner to get your question answered. It isn't going to go well for you, and I'm perfectly okay with that, and you've been warned. I love it, Mo.
I like that he put that out there, like that he empowered his players to say, like, nah, we're not going to answer that. We're going to move on for them. Or I can actually just tell you to what he said they can tell you. And I look, I think he is one of he's at the forefront of the younger coaches generation, if you will, right? I think they have better relations with today's players. They can speak to them better, today's players. So he is part of the evolution to me of coaching and where the NFL is going. They are moving away from the old crotchety, barely say anything. It's all about defense, 3 yards in a cloud of dust, and he's more outspoken. But I think that's a good thing that he doesn't mind engaging the media, but he's going to do it on his own terms.
Mo, did you have any issue with the way that Sean Payton dressed down Russell Wilson on the sidelines last weekend? It's gotten a lot of coverage the past few days, especially former players coming out and basically saying, you don't speak to a quarterback that way. That's not how you address the leader of the offense in that public forum like that. If you want to have a conversation, if you bring him in, you go sit down on the bench at least to do it. But I forget who the player was. He works for ESPN, and he's like, there is a camera. There is a camera W is assigned to the head coach. Camera X is assigned to the quarterback. All they do is follow the quarterback and the head coach. So you damn well knew you were going to be on TV doing that. And then, I saw a few people come out and try to defend Sean and be like, well, he wasn't really upset with Russ. He was upset about the offsides. And I'm like, I don't quite know about that.
Yeah, come on, man. Come on, man. Look, come on, man. If you believe that, then you're defying common sense, right? Like he was literally in Russell Wilson's face, and there was even some hand motions, and he was not saying like, I'm so damn mad about that call, Russ. You know what I'm saying? I want to get that. No, come on, man. Come on. He was coming at Russ, and I think that was my biggest problem. When they asked him about it, he said, I actually wasn't mad at Russ. I was mad about the call. And I was like, come on, Peyton. We're not, come on, man. Just be honest. And then when he got asked again, he changed it and dialed it back a little bit and said, what I say to Russ is between me and him. Right.
Yeah.
But that's more realistic. Not you were so mad about the call. And my problem was this. Yeah, I had a problem with the way he undressed him, but part of that is on Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson has one of those kind of personalities where he's so composed that even in that moment, he won't lash out and say anything. He'll just take it. He wouldn't have done that to Lamar Jackson because Lamar Jackson would have said something back. I think Joe Burrow said something back. We know Brady would have been like, who are you talking to? Who are you talking to? Right. You know what I'm saying? Like, he did that to the right quarterback because that guy, that particular quarterback, is going to take it.
Can you imagine someone coming at Peyton Manning that way?
Brees isn't doing that.
Can you imagine someone yelling at Peyton Manning like that?
I can imagine somebody trying and paying the price, but I mean, you just know that Brady would have been offended. Like, are you talking to me? Are you seriously talking? That would have been embarrassing for the coach because Brady would have exploded. He picked the right quarterback. Russ is, like I said, he's almost a company man to a fault.
All right, well, let's take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to have JG on the show. We're going to talk a little Major League Baseball this morning. Don't go anywhere. When we come back, JG on the other side of the break. It's Coffee and Sports. It's the morning show powered by Sports Empire Network.
Hey, y'all, I'm Key.
And I'm Jory, and tune in to Hoop Dreams and Touchdown Queens every Saturday at 5 p.m. over on Sports Empire Network.
And don't forget, also watch us on Roku TV at Northeast Streaming Productions. So tune in.
Welcome back. It's Coffee and Sports. It's the morning show here on Sports Empire Network, and we are joined now by JG. JG, how are you this morning, sir?
Morning, JG.
I'm doing good. How you guys doing this morning?
Doing well.
Doing well, sir. Jeter back in the Bronx. I know it's a little misleading of a headline, but the Yankees claimed Jeter Downs, who some people might know from the trade with Mookie Betts. He was part of that initial deal. He was claimed by the New York Yankees. JG, decent prospect there. I know he got a a little bit of playing time in Washington, but he's a young kid. What do you think?
He's a roster filler at this point. He hasn't developed on what the Red Sox hoped when they traded for him when he was part of the Mookie Betts trade. He's had his moments here and there, but it's just been more of underwhelming in his early part of his career right now. So why not take a flyer in New York? The Yankees looking at him and say, we'll take a chance on you and see if we can kind of get you going in a change of scenery, a change of direction. Maybe we can do something with you. And if anything, just have a roster spot for you. So, it's a fun story as a Jeter is back in New York, which he was named after Derek Jeter. I believe that was his backstory. Was his parents were very big Yankee fans and they loved Derek Jeter, so they named him after him. But that's what this is really. It's more of a story. It's a good story. But at this stage from what we've seen out of Jeter Downs, it's been, like I said, underwhelming at the early part of his career right now. So hopefully he can kind of turn around. He can kind of get it figured out a little bit more. But and maybe in New York might be the place where he does it, and the story continues, and we can. And we have a Jeter story for maybe another 10 years in the Bronx, and maybe that might work out. But at the moment right now, this is a roster filler. They're going to take a chance on him and see if he can develop the way that they want to see him develop.
So, JG, we've talked about how Yamamoto is holding up the market, and the market is waiting for Yamamoto to sign, and we're going to progress from there. But there's one team that is like, you know what? Forget it. We're not going to wait on Yamamoto. We're going to get stuff done now. And that is the Angels. The Angels have come out and they are aggressively pursuing Blake Snell. They are not going to wait for Yamamoto to sign. They are going to capitalize on the pitching market as it stands today. And I read that story, JG, and I was like, great. I'm glad you want to. They're not going to sign. They're not going to agree to anything you have to offer until he signs somewhere. Unless, they offer ridiculous money to someone and they're just like, well, I didn't think I was going to get that on the open market anyways. So sure, I'll sign early if you're going to add on all those zeros. But JG, just because they want to capitalize before he signs, do you actually see any movement in the pitching market with the pitchers they're targeting before Yamamoto signs?
No, because it doesn't make any sense for pitchers to any of the other pitchers, right? And I know there's been a lot of top pitchers have already signed or already moved on, but for Blake Snell right now, it makes no sense for Snell to speed up his process because Yamamoto is going to set the market for him. And the argument is, as I said with you guys before, the argument for Snell is I'm a 2-time Cy Young winner. I've done it in the big leagues twice already. Yeah, I'm 30 years old, going to be 31 in 2024. But as we've seen, this is the prime of major league pitchers. I'll have 4 years of prime still. So if you sign me for 6 or 7 years, 4 to 5 of my years are still my prime in what we've seen in Major League Baseball pitching. So it makes no sense for Snell. It makes a lot of sense for the Angels to push it through because if they wait for Yamamoto to sign and then they try to pursue Snell, well, now you're going to have to fight with a lot of other teams and you have to overpay even more so, which they don't want to do. We've seen the Angels don't really want to do that. So them pushing now for Snell makes a ton of sense. It makes 0 sense for Snell to push it on right now because he knows the market's going to reset later on. So, it's an interesting conversation they're having right now. It's an interesting, hey, they're going to push for it. But I don't see Snell signing right now just because he knows the market's going to reset when Yamamoto does sign.
Another team that is waiting for Yamamoto to sign is Milwaukee. Milwaukee has basically already come out and said unofficially that Burns and Adames are going to be moved this offseason. And it looks like their strategy is that whoever doesn't get Yamamoto, they're going to try to sell Burns to as a plan B in a fallback option. Reports are also saying that they are not looking to move both players in the same deal, and they are not looking to give anyone to the Chicago Cubs. Clearly, they are still angry about that situation. So no one's going to the Cubs from Milwaukee, but they don't want to move those players in a package deal. They want to move them separately. JG, is this what's the market out there for a team that doesn't land Yamamoto? Is Burns going to be seen as a quality consolation prize, or are they just hoping for something that's not going to materialize?
No, Corbin Burns is going to be a good consolation prize. He has become one of the better pitchers in Major League Baseball for quite a while now, and has been the leader of the pitching staff of Milwaukee, despite the issues. That's the interesting part. Despite the issues that have gone on between him and the club, he's still gone out and performed, and he performs very well. So usually when you have a lot of animosity between a player and a club, there is a downtick in performance sometimes. And we haven't seen that with Corbin Burns. So that's the interesting part that makes him a little bit more valuable, is that, hey, despite any kind of issue, he still goes out and performs and pitches like a Cy Young candidate. So that's, any team that's going to pursue, a trade with Milwaukee is going to get a good one here. Willy Adames is pretty interesting because, and they must have did a 180 turn, because at the beginning of the offseason, they said they're not interested in trading Willy Adames. So I'm curious on what the reasoning is that they're taking that step now to make that trade. And my goodness, if you're the Reds, I'll just put it this way, within the division, if you're the Cincinnati Reds, you're capitalizing on this now, because the division, as I said to you guys, this division is so wide open. And if they're trading not only Corbin Burns, which they already lost Brandon Woodruff, who's the number one, and Burns the number one, Woodruff the number two, their whole pitching staff's going to be brand new, basically. Now they're wanting to trade their starting shortstop. Very interesting, and that was, again, I'm not really sure why trading Adames is such a priority for them now, unless they're on the verge of wanting to do a rebuild and kind of start over a little bit. And it probably makes sense with the new manager. They probably wanted to do in that direction, just to kind of try to hit a reset and make sure they have prospects, they have things that can kind of go and be back competitive in a year or two. But Corbin Burns, that was the worst kept secret of being a trade. And I know there was times that they said that they were going to hold on to him this offseason and try to keep him for 2024, knowing that Brandon Woodruff was gone. But now, again, there was no way Burns was going to stay another year with them. So yeah, if a team pursues Burns, that's a great consolation prize. And again, obviously depends on what you're having to give up in the process. But Burns has been one of the top pitchers in the National League for quite a while, for a few years. I think that's going to be a great move for a team that does miss out on Yamamoto, does miss out on Snell. They're gonna get a good pitcher out of him, and obviously a contract extension is going to be necessary once that move happens, because that's what he's going to want when it gets all said and done.
If you're a general manager, are you comfortable in the $200 million range with Cody Bellinger?
I wouldn't say I wouldn't say I'm comfortable. I wouldn't say I'm comfortable with it, because are we going to see 2023 Chicago Cubs Cody Bellinger for the foreseeable future? Are we going to see the 2020, 2021, the 2021, or actually not the 2020, the 2021 and 2022 Cody Bellinger that absolutely struggled? That's where I'm hesitant on making that decision, because I would need to see. I would have to hope. I know you can't see because he's a free agent right now, so you're going to have to lock him up. I wouldn't go to $200 million for Cody Bellinger. I wouldn't right now. If he had more seasons in recent times, if 2022 wasn't a dumpster fire of a season for him, and he had 2022 and if he had a bad season, let's just say if he had a bad season in 2021, he had a good season in 2022, and then what he did in Chicago in 2023, I would be very comfortable doing $200 million for him at that point. I would. But because he did have back-to-back bad seasons, he had a good season with the COVID-shortened season, but that was 60 games. And then he had a bad season, and a horrible season. Well, then he rediscovered himself in 2023. I'm hesitant. I would say for me as a general manager, the ceiling would be 175. I think 175 would be the maximum that I would go to sign him. And as I've kind of said, there are probably times where I talk myself out of deals if I was a general manager, because I have to be stingy on certain aspects of what I see and what I know. But for Bellinger, I would go 175. And maybe it might cost me my opportunity to sign him, but I would be hesitant, because I just don't. Which Bellinger are we getting? Are we going to get the MVP Cody Bellinger from a few years ago? Are we going to get the Bellinger that absolutely couldn't hit his way out of a wet paper bag a couple of years ago? Or are we going to the rediscovered 2023 version of Bellinger? That one, there's so many different variables. We have to make sure that which one we're getting. But I wouldn't go to that version. I wouldn't go to the $200 million range. I would be very hesitant. But again, if you're having outbid, $200 million might be the number that you're going to have to pay for if you're going to get his services.
Big night tonight, JG, for New Orleans Saint fans. The 7-7 Saints are playing the 7-7 Rams. This could essentially be a playoff eliminator game. Things are very tight in the NFC. Obviously, the Saints have a leg up because of how their division is currently playing out. So they're not just looking for a wild card. They could be looking for a division title as well. The Rams are looking for a wild card. They're doing everything they can to stay in that race. What are you looking for tonight out of your Saints? What do the Saints need to do to take down what at times is a high-powered offensive Rams team?
Offensively for the Saints, we have to be able to create mismatches against this team. And we're using Kamara differently than what we have. Stop using him as a traditional runner. All right. He is one of the better running backs in space, in open space, pass catching running backs. He has made a career out of that. Guess who's in the middle of the defensive line for the LA Rams? Oh, it's Aaron Donald. And he is still the best D tackle. He's still the best, not one of. He is still the best D tackle in the NFL. So if we're going to try to run, the only person I would be comfortable running up the middle right now for the New Orleans Saints would be Taysom Hill. And really, it's not running up the middle; it's using off tackle. Run him in the C gaps, run him in the B gaps. Get him away from Donald in that. But using Kamara in space, put him in the slot. I don't understand why Pete Carmichael has not realized that Sean Payton made Kamara what he is today by using him as a wideout at times, using him in the slot, putting him out in space. We become from one of the best screen teams under Sean Payton to possibly one of the worst screen teams under Pete Carmichael. We're not figuring out how to do it. And I know Drew Brees was a master as a quarterback doing the screen game. You know, whether it was Pierre Thomas, Reggie Bush, Alvin Kamara, Deuce McAllister at points, Mark Ingram. I get Brees was one of the best quarterbacks at how he placed and how he put and we've gotten so far away from those days because since then. But using Kamara, especially if Thomas is not going to play. Olave's coming back from an injury. Shaheed's back. But why not use Kamara out as a wideout a little bit more? You're talking about putting him in the slot with a safety or a linebacker. That is a easy mismatch all day. I don't understand why we not be able to do that. So Kamara has to be a focal point in this offense more in this game because of what he brings mismatch wise. And you're still taking hit with some of the weapons that you have. Defensively, we have to stop the run game. They are this Rams team. Stafford has rejuvenated himself because of Kyren Williams. Kyren Williams is absolutely been balling out. He has displayed such great skill as a runner that it allows teams to have to move on a little bit, and it's letting a quarterback as good Matt Stafford be to go and just take shots downfield with Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp rediscover himself. So if you can stop Kyren Williams and you have to make Stafford have to throw the ball 35, 40 times, you have a chance. But it's a matter of making sure you stop the run, which so far we've done really well. We shut down Saquon Barkley. I know that's not really saying much because that offensive line for the Giants was absolutely horrendous. We've stopped Miles Sanders and Chuba Hubbard. Not saying much because the Carolina Panthers offensive line is absolutely atrocious. But this is a better test for you here. This is a bigger test that you're going to have to stop the run. You're going to stop Kyren Williams and make Stafford have to throw the ball 35, 40 times. If you do that, you have a chance. And from there. But Kyren Williams is the focal point for that offense that you have to slow down. If you do that, I think the Saints can pull it off.
All right, JG. Always a pleasure having you here. We'll see you next week, sir.
Appreciate you, JG.
Definitely, guys.
You know what?
Appreciate it.
We don't hear from you. Have a great holidays, man.
Y'all as well have a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. I'll see you guys later.
Bye, JG. All right, Mo, we're going to get to that game in a few minutes. It's a big one tonight. It's a big one for both teams. Only 3 games left in the season. Playoffs are coming down in a hurry. So big game for both of those guys tonight, and we'll touch on that here in a second. But before we do that, it's like the third time this week we're going to talk Cam Newton, but this time, Mo,
Really?
it's a good conversation though.
Oh,
So
cool.
Cam Newton was on a podcast, and I forget who he was doing it with, but they were talking about the greatest duos of all time. All right, greatest sports duos of all time, and they were just kind of naming off, their top fives, and whoever the gentleman was that Cam was doing the show with. The disagreement kind of came up when they got to Clay and Steph as compared to LeBron and D Wade. And Cam was on the Clay and Steph side, and whoever he was doing the show with was more on the LeBron and D Wade side. And I thought that Cam made a pretty decent point when he was talking about how Clay and Steph, and I think this is more Steph than it is Clay, but they were talking about how that duo changed the way basketball duos play the game. And a lot of that is Steph with the 3-point line and the 3-point philosophy. But if we're being fair to Clay, Mo, he really was an integral part of that when it first started happening.
Oh, no question.
I mean, they were the Splash Brothers.
Right.
Clay was doing it at a high level as well. I don't know if he was ever doing it at Steph's level, but there was that peak where they were both doing it together. So I guess the argument, and we'll see where you take it, are we talking about impact? Are we talking about statistics? Are we talking about championships? I would argue that Clay and Steph have all three. Now, if we're talking about careers, you're not going to compete with LeBron and Wade. I mean, career-wise, their legacy and whatnot is going to be more than Clay and Steph. So I think that's where people might look at it and be like, no, it's definitely LeBron and D Wade. But if you keep it with just the duo and you don't separate them and start talking about individual accolades, I'm leaning Steph and Clay myself. Where are you at?
I think if you keep it about the duo, I'm going to go with Steph and Clay. I'm going to go with Steph and Clay. One, because that duo, they won 4 titles together. That duo, again, I'm with you, more so Steph, but Clay is a big part of it. They did change the game to a degree together. LeBron and Wade are great, and we both know that if you were just breaking them down to individual players, obviously LeBron's the best of the group. You could argue Wade, I wouldn't even argue Wade's a better basketball player than Clay. He can't shoot as well, but he's a better basketball player. He had a bigger impact individually. But together, I think we almost forget how great a run they had. Maybe because it's coming to the end now, but the impact at Golden State, they became the team that was hunted, and they still won games. They still won championships. And for me, this is just for me, the most impressive championship they won, it was the last one.
Mm-hmm.
Because no one saw that one coming. We thought, well, they're done. They won 3 titles. They had a great run. And remember, this is with Clay not being quite Clay. He wasn't even the second best player. That was Wiggins. And it was a different core. It wasn't the same core. And I think that elevated the greatness of Steph. And his impact on the game. So for everybody out there listening, this isn't about who's the better players. You're saying the duo and the impact and what they accomplished. I don't think it's that complicated. I think it's Steph and Clay.
Mo, if the NCAA is trying to get Harbaugh to leave college football, they are doing a really, really great job of it. New allegations have emerged against Harbaugh. More. Different from his previous recruiting allegations and violations. More information is to come on it, but apparently there's going to be another investigation. Another set of allegations are coming his way as Michigan is preparing to play Alabama in the college football playoff. And then obviously from there, if they're successful, they are going to go and play for a national championship. We were already convinced that from the first investigation, there were going to be some penalties levied against Michigan going into next season. Now we're talking new investigations, new allegations, potentially new penalties. Mo, I feel bad for what's going to happen to Michigan during the offseason. The hammer is going to be dropped, and I don't think Harbaugh is going to be in the building when the hammer is dropped.
No, he will be gone.
And I hope that it doesn't cripple the program for the next few seasons, but it could. It could really kind of put a damper on what they want to accomplish as a national powerhouse. Hopefully it doesn't, but we'll see. I think if there was, and there still is, coming into this week, there were still thoughts of, well, he might stay. The vibe around Michigan from talking to people is he isn't going anywhere. I don't buy that, Mo. With this new report, there's no way that he stays there to deal with the fallout because, and I would almost, and again, we have no way of knowing this, but I would have to imagine that if he's there, the fallout's going to be even greater because it's him the NCAA is upset with. It's him the NCAA wants to punish. So I almost feel like the NCAA would look at it as him being brazen if he chose to stay there. On.
I'm thinking the same thing. If he chose to stay, the NCAA would be like, really? You're staying? Because we just dug up some more stuff. Like, you know what I mean? Like there's just this endless bag of things that they're going to bring up. I feel like there is pressure, obviously, from the NCAA, but I also think that Michigan has to think about its future. So its alums, their director, I think they're looking and they're saying, Jim, look, we love you, man, but hey, it's getting hot. I mean, and it's about you, and you have to think about the institution, and you got to bounce because when you leave, we're taking all this heat. The sooner you leave, maybe the less heat we have to take, the less sanctions or whatever penalties they levy against us. It'll be lesser the sooner you go. What we both can agree on, Jim, they want you gone. And the idea of you staying, while that sounds good, and I think this too, Chris, I think everybody at Michigan is saying like, oh no, he's intended on staying, and he's kind of very brazen and bold, like I might just stay. I'm 100% in my belief that he is not staying. I'm 100%. I know. He knows, and he does love Michigan. He is a Michigan guy. I think at his core, he'd like to stay, but I think Jim Harbaugh knows for the betterment of the university, he's going to bounce.
If I am one of the higher ups at Michigan, I just to make sure we're moving in the right direction, I'm having my lackeys drop Justin Herbert highlight videos on his desk once a week. I just really want him to understand what he could have with the Chargers. I want him to see the talent that team has. I really want him, I'm dropping, a Herbert jersey, maybe a Charger polo so he can get used to the blue, right? Like, I just want him to really understand how great of an opportunity that is for him in his next step, Mo.
And don't forget, you might even want to make a call and have Herbert call Harbaugh. Like, Coach, it's not official. You haven't made any decisions, but man, I would just love the opportunity to work with you. I know what you could do for me. Like they're not trying to push him out the door, but they're trying to imply that he should go, he should leave, right? They're dropping subtle hints like, Jim, like you've done so much. Don't you want to go back to the NFL level and see if you can win a Super Bowl at that level? Don't you want to one-up your brother? He's already beaten you once in the Super Bowl. Don't you want to sit down at them Thanksgiving family dinners and be like, I've got one too? Like, I know that bothers you. I know you feel like you've got something to prove. Like, they're not going to push him out, but they want him out.
Mo, we got football on tonight. Like I said a little bit ago, it is a big game for both teams. If you take a look at the NFC playoff standings going into the weekend, obviously we know who is clinched: the Niners, the Cowboys, the Eagles. That is the cream of the crop in the NFC. Yes, the Lions are 10-4. I think we have more questions about the Lions than we do with those other three teams. So I would say, San Francisco is the top. Dallas and Philly are one step behind. I think the Lions are floating kind of close to Dallas and Philly, but maybe a step behind of them. And then we have everybody else. The Buccaneers are 7-7. They lead their division. The Saints are tied with them at 7-7, but the tiebreaker currently goes to the Bucks, and I believe the Bucks have control of their own destiny. If they win out, they will win the division. And then right behind them are the 6-8 Falcons. That is in the NFC South. If you take a look at the rest of the wild card race, the Vikings are 7-7, the Rams are 7-7, the Seahawks are 7-7, and then we have the Green Bay Packers, who are one game behind all of them at 6-8. The Vikings are about to go on their own mission as they play the Lions to the next 3 games. The Vikings are hoping they could still pull out a division win if things go their way. If the Vikings win out and the Lions lose out, and 2 of those games are against the Vikings, Minnesota could be looking at a division title, which would blow
crazy.
my mind. That would blow my mind.
Yes.
But we're getting ahead of ourselves. Tonight, it's the Rams and the Saints. I'm not saying the loser of tonight's game is done, but the winner is going to take a significant step forward as far as their chances to make the playoffs. I lean Rams tonight, Mo, and a lot of it for me is quarterback play. I think that Stafford is playing better football right now than Carr is. I understand that the Saints have a good defense, but I think the Saints have a better run defense than they do with a passing defense. And this has nothing to do with the fact that my fantasy football semifinal matchup is against Williams for the Rams, and I am strongly rooting against him tonight. I need him to do nothing. I want the Rams to win, but I want him to do nothing.
So you're
no
looking at him
touchdowns.
going 18 carries, 18 yards.
Yes. He nothing. Just do nothing and let be the pass game. I want Stafford to throw for 5-10 tonight and 5 touchdowns, and Williams to have 42 yards rushing, and that's it. But I just think that the Rams are playing better football right now. I know the Saints they have the same record, and I know they've won, I think they've won 2 of their last 3. But if you just look at how these 2 teams are winning the past few weeks, I think the Rams are just a better football team, and they're playing better right now. Yeah. And I think that's what you're going to see tonight. Not saying the Saints can't pull it out. The Saints win, I'm not going to be shocked. I mean, these are both competitive football teams.
Yeah, it's a competitive game.
But I'm going to go Rams tonight.
I'm going Rams because as much as we're talking about MVP play and Purdy and Tua, no quarterback over the last few weeks is playing better than Matt Stafford, period. And he's complemented by that run game. And I will make this point. The Saints could very well stop Williams tonight and still get shredded by Matthew Stafford because the fact that they stop Williams, they have to respect the run game, which still sets up the play action pass, whether Williams is effective or not. So I'm going to go Rams. And I agree with every point that JG made, but I just think that Matthew Stafford and that offense, they're on one right now, and they're the better offensive football team. I think they will find a way to win a close game.
And Mo, I'm not confident they're going to stop Williams tonight. I believe he's been over 100 yards his past 2 or 3 games. This Rams offense relies heavily on him because, like you said, once he gets going, that play action pass opens up a lot of things for Stafford. Right. So if they go in there with the intent to stop him, I think they're just going to spread him out. And then you're going to see the passing game pick up. And then once the passing game picks up, they're going to go back to Williams. So if you're the Saints, I mean, and it's funny because we're talking about the Rams like they're a juggernaut and they're some like 10-2 team or something like that.
It sounds like it.
They have the ability to be that when they're firing on all cylinders on offense. And I think that's what people don't realize in the NFL. A lot of people don't watch Rams games, and I get that. But if you look at what they're capable of and what their ceiling is on offense, that is their ceiling. So I think it is going to be an uphill battle against the Saints tonight. I just hope it's a close game. And I'm not giving the NFL any credit here, Mo. When they put this game on the schedule, no one thought it was going to be a good game. They lucked in to this being a good game tonight on Thursday Night Football.
And a meaningful game.
Right. I hope Al Michaels is ready. I hope he's on the top of his game tonight.
I want him to be too, because obviously this is the end of his run. So you know what, you a great all-time announcer. I hope he really is as sharp as he's ever been.
All right, Mo, close us out, sir.
Thank you for everybody in the chat. Appreciate all the support. Thanks for everybody that's watching us right now today. And we appreciate everybody that will watch us later on tonight. Check out all the great content we have to offer to you on Sports Empire Network. Check out the Empire.
Make sure you're back here same time, same place tomorrow morning when we break down all of the other games in week 16 of the NFL season. We might even have Key dropping by to talk a little WWE and pro wrestling stuff. All of that and more tomorrow. Same time, same place. We'll see you tomorrow morning.
I mean, you can see right now, without LeBron, Lakers are struggling.
Let me tell you about the team I hate, all right? I know the Dallas Cowboy fan is here, so I had to make sure he knew how much I hate this team.
I'm ready. I've often said that the people who run baseball, they try very hard to ruin it.
I'm from Brooklyn. I don't have a problem saying it to his face. Oh, I'm from Brooklyn. Hey, you guys any